everyone, it's Carolyn, here to share more messages. This time I'm going to do something a little different. I have a client that I've worked with for a couple of years, and she is the easiest way to explain this, because it's very complex, I will say, is she is a representation of the collective energetically and of the divine feminine. She typically has things occur to her energetically and experientially before the collective has it happen. It's a very complex story, but the point in this is she and I had a session the other day, and I said, oh my gosh, I would love to share clips of this session on my YouTube channel. And she's like, do it. So I clipped out the parts that made the most sense and that were the theme of this session, and I'm offering it to you today. We hit on what's going on in the collective now with respect to the balancing out of the energetics of the divine feminine and the divine masculine, and a conversation around that. You're going to also see how she is affected by some of this, but the main point of this is a lot of the information that came through with respect to where we're at with that divine feminine rising in all of us, and all of us finding that divinity in us, masculine and feminine. And so there's some interesting pieces in here, and I thought you would enjoy hearing this conversation. There also is conversation, again, this includes channeled information, because that's what I do in my sessions, right? But there's also information about twin flames. And so what you're going to hear here is, again, I've talked a lot about it, the upside down, that we're in the upside down. Well, this kind of reflects a little bit of this. It also talks about where we are collectively and really individually as well. But bottom line is, as I think many of you are aware, and we can talk about it in many different ways, the collective is moving into the new earth in a way that offers these divine balances of masculine, feminine in each of us. And we could talk all day long. In fact, I think one of my videos talked a little bit about some of those things that are actually happening now for individuals. But this is a fascinating conversation. At least I thought it was. So I hope you take at least one thing away that you find interesting and that it helps you along your awakening and ascension journey. So I'm Carolyn. I'm a channel. I'm a distance energy healer, and I'm a spiritual awakening mentor. And I offer these videos for support along your awakening and ascension journey. So I hope you enjoy this. This is all audio, so you're just going to get a little background of nothing really to look at, but you're going to get the audio of about 30 minutes, and I so hope you enjoy it. Yeah, no, how's your week been? Honestly, since the equinox, cheesy peasy.
Yes, me too.
So what are you noticing this week after the equinox? I'm so curious. Or have you noticed anything different?
There is a lot more like kind of magnetic energy, I would say. Like I even though I'm struggling like with a lot of some of this older stuff, this weird, a lot of the old things that I thought I was done with are back.
You know why? Okay, that's why. Okay, because what I'm picking up, and this also aligns with something else I'm aware of, is that. Okay, they just said in your face. Like it's, okay, they just said the last hurrah. It's like there's degrees of breaking through this and finishing it up. And it feels like to me, okay, there's something about the equinox energy they're talking about is, okay, they just said shattering the final pieces. If that makes any sense to you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I see, for me, this is a revisiting of something happened, something like we're coming back around through it. I've already done this, but this time I kind of understand what's going on a little bit more than I did when I was just crashing, right?
Yeah.
So, but yes, this was a lot of intermixing and claiming, and but just all kinds of breaking happening everywhere because of just this kind of mindless very unorganized, very assumption of, just what is the word I'm looking for? Just a total infringement. You know what I mean? Like coming in and just doing whatever the hell they want.
You're talking now, this week.
This is the energy I meant. Yes, this is the repeat of something before. But on the flip side of that, the positive part right now that I'm noticing is I'm getting a lot of this kind of, I would say it's more of a divine feminine.
Yeah,
it's a very magnetic, like a love, like I can sense almost like a partner, not really a partner, but another energy.
Yep.
And I can sense that it's being drawn to me.
Okay. So this all has to do with the collective too, because bottom line, where we're headed collectively is this, in a nutshell, and you can talk about it in many different ways, but bottom line is the reclamation of the divine feminine into the way we live and breathe and live our daily lives as humans. So it makes total sense that you are starting to feel that now. And then what's going to be happening over this year is the continued breaking down, but the continued creation and reintroduction, what they're using that word, reintroduction of the divine feminine into the collective, into us each individually.
Okay.
Because that's what, bottom line, that is root cause of not so much the cause, I'll just say it this way, root cause of the issues we see in our world today is the whole patriarchal situation, the imbalance of the divine feminine masculine. If we had the full on balance, we wouldn't say anything. And if it was divine masculine and feminine, we'd be in, we'd be in what the perfect world might be, right? And so, and that's why we're seeing the fight right now and all the horrible things that are happening, all of us. There's multiple other things going on, but the bottom line is this coming back into, they keep saying stasis, equilibrium and balance of the.
I feel like it was a divide and conquer situation, because it was almost like finding the, I think having a balance of that is an exponential bump up. Okay.
Yeah.
Or in maybe the discovery of separating, they found the exponential fall. Mm-hmm. And for some that was easier than to, whether it was done intentionally or not for the experiment, or because somebody just discovered that they could do that and then play the two sides against each other kind of thing for their own gain. But I can see that there's a huge bump up when the two energies are actually aligned and interlocked.
And when you say the two energies, you're talking the divine feminine and masculine?
Yes.
Yes. Oh, yes, absolutely. Okay. It's this is really interesting. This is so interesting. They're showing a visual, and it's a visual of an energy, but with an arm and a hand pulling face downward. The arm and hand is pulling up the divine masculine, and there's an arm coming out of the energy that's the masculine. And this is so interesting. You'd think it would be the other way around. Yeah, no, that makes sense. That makes sense. The feminine pulling the masculine up.
That's what I feel like is happening. Yeah, even though the feminine, I think part of the brutalization and some of the stuff that was experienced through the feminine, I think it may have been as the retrieving, going to the level to retrieve the divine masculine and just being in that energy getter aspect, right?
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
Because, so what they're trying to show me is, this is interesting. It's God, even though on the surface it looks like the divine feminine has been the one that's been buried, it's actually the divine masculine that has been buried. The divine feminine, they're saying, has always been there. It's just not been allowed to present itself, is what they're saying. But the divine masculine has been buried, is what they're saying, which is really interesting, right? So neither have been really able to work in the real way they're supposed to, or be able to create, they just said all that is good and well. And because what happened out of the masculine is that patriarchy, this really dark energy, took over, suppressed both. Does that make sense?
It sounds right, yes.
Suppressed both. And interestingly, the divine feminine is in my visual is doing the helping hand of the divine masculine to pull up, even though the divine feminine is not all it can be at present either, but is rising. And with it will come the divine masculine. So it's as though, this kind of makes sense. It's as though the divine feminine has to show first the way. They just said, just show the way, the truth, and the light. The divine feminine. Oh, they just said the core of who you are will show the way, the way, the truth, and the light, they keep saying. This is such an interesting visual. This is what's happening right now, is what they're saying to me. And wow. Ooh. Which is why, oh my God. So this is why we're seeing all this angst, all these horrible things happening right now in pockets throughout our country, through the world, everything. And yet, wow. Oh.
I wanted to visit this. And so what I've been doing here recently, especially with some of this energy that's, because I've really seen a very, very positive, very encouraging, empowering level of energy, right?
Yes.
Come through. And I'm like, okay,
yes.
We're going to be fine.
Yep.
When I feel this, right? We're going to be fine. And then I'll go into something like, oh, crap, So I've been just trying to remember that is there. And I'm just putting out this, like, when I work with aspects or energies, especially with my divine human in Gaia, my veiled aspect, I only want to work with the divine aspect of those energies.
Yep.
On this plane.
Yep.
So I've been saying that energy needs to be around this vessel.
Yes, exactly.
So I've been just saying, okay, your divine, whatever your divine aspect needs to participate in, if you want, if there's any interfacing going on or anything working through my energetic, I want it, your divine aspect is free to work with me, but at this point, no one else. So, at different times I feel connected to different kinds of energies, but then again, I always try to remember, and with what they told me, that like there really can't be a name for it, because there's no name for it all being, all of the energies being, but sometimes different energies tend to highlight themselves to me. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So, that's kind of one of the ones that I've kind of connected to recently. It kind of feels masculine, but it's not. It's got a feminine voice when I hear it speaking. But
you know what? I think that's the divine masculine in a way. I think there's something there about because they're trying to show me this in the, I don't want to say this. They just said soothing the voice of the masculine. They didn't say divine masculine. They're talking about soothing the voice of the masculine. See, and then it's that transition into the divine masculine is what they're showing. I feel like that's the connection between what you're hearing. I have chills when I just said that. So, and even though I don't even understand what I just said.
I do. At one time I had somebody, they said something to me. I didn't quite understand it, but they said, let her hear everything as a whisper.
Oh.
And I thought, why? And they said, because it will soften the energy or the communication coming to you. So it's almost like they're filtering what's coming through, just for my own sensitivity to kind of protect me. So it feels better coming into me when the voice that it's coming through as is more pleasing. Does that
make sense? That makes sense.
That's what they're saying.
Okay, so there's something to be said about that, because there's something to do with this masculine side. Oh gosh, I have so many chills on this, and I don't feel like I'm going to be able to explain this properly. They're showing off to the left this masculine voice coming to you. Oh, they just said to be healed. Okay, by the divine feminine, which is you. Okay, right? Okay, so to be healed, and it's a whispering voice, because you wouldn't accept it otherwise if it was the loud masculine we see today. But it's the hurt part of the masculine that's coming into the feminine to be healed, is what they're saying. Okay. Whew. The divine, the masculine is searching for its feminine. The masculine searching for its feminine, and it's in pain and it's suffering and it's coming. This is all new. Okay. And it's coming from the left side, lower left, coming up, reaching up to you in that sense, that representation. And the hand up is, and the masculine is in so much pain. Okay, they're talking about it turning inside out of itself. Okay, which is why we see the things in the outside world the way they are right now, because the individual male is having this growth, the ego struggles, the struggles in general. And so what we then do is we manifest that in the outside world. But what the male is doing is searching to the divine feminine within themselves, right? Ultimately, to come into that stasis or that balance, that equilibrium. And oh, wow. Oh, okay. So, and the female, and they're showing me like actual human individuals, is really, and of course there's the wounded female too, right? But the female is actually anchoring the ability for the male to move into their feminine. Oh my God, this is so complex.
Yeah.
I don't know if that resonates at all, if that makes any sense to you.
Yeah, it does. I mean, it's funny how you're saying it's turning inside out. It's like, because I feel like the feminine, like that is truly who I am at my core, although I have both.
Right.
But I felt like the crash into, I don't know what happened to that feminine energy. It kind of like just was like, and I don't know if my feminine kind of pulled out of my body. Okay. Like,
here's what I'm getting. Here's what I'm getting is that, and we're just going to keep going along the themes of divine feminine and masculine. When you had the feminine pulled out of you, that was the whole attempt to completely, they just used the word annihilate the divine feminine. Because think about this, the lower energies, I'm just calling lower energies, or the entities, they know what the plan is for the feminine to come back, and they're trying to stop that in any way possible. Okay. And so
I'm wondering, sometimes I wonder if that energy is not what they're saying, the divine masculine, or the masculine energy, in so much pain. It's like almost like out of his mind. And when it got a hold of the divine feminine, it just tore. It didn't.
Oh, yeah. Because what they show me is okay, this is interesting. I showed you the lower left is the divine masculine reaching up to the right. So on the right side, I showed you the divine feminine, the light, the bright, and the hand reaching out. But in the upper left corner, I'm showing the patriarchal masculine in the upper left. So, and they're both on that side. The masculine are both on that side, which I guess makes sense. And yes,
divine masculine lower than the patriarchal.
Well, this is because of where the energies are right now. Remember what I was saying? The divine masculine is trying to get a hand up, right, to come back in. So what they're showing me is on the left side is the male, but the patriarchy is on top of upper left-hand corner. And okay, so they're showing a visual of like, if you're showing a human head or something, like pushing that energy down, trying to hold that. It's actually trying to hold this is so interesting, the divine masculine energy down. But because okay, this is kind of the upside down, because the divine masculine wants to rise and be saved. It is revolting inside the patriarchal energy, the divine masculine energy. That energy is revolting inside the individual human male, which is why we're seeing the chaos coming out in the world right now, mostly coming from males, if that makes any sense at all, because they are inside themselves. Okay, they're having a war inside each of themselves with the divine masculine and the patriarchy. And on the outside, what they show is the feminine bringing them, helping try to pull them along into their divinity. Now, we both have divine, they're trying to show male, female in this, just to represent this. We both have masculine, feminine, but it's bringing the feminine back into that, but pulling that divine feminine out and then releasing out the patriarchy. So the fight now is in the man.
And it looks like the patriarchy, I think the patriarchal is actually so my experience has been that the patriarchal is almost holding the divine, so he can be holding the divine masculine, almost so he can possess the divine feminine.
That's it. That's totally it. That's
Very
exactly what I was saying.
strange, yes.
That's what I was saying, and I wasn't saying it very well. No, that's exactly it. And not allowing that balance and that equilibrium. So if you hold one down, right? Like what they really want is the feminine power. Okay, the divine feminine power. They understand it very well, and they are using it in some way, right? They're holding it down, suppressing it to be able to be allowed to be used in each individual human female, but they're using it in their other ways. And I'm talking, I mean, this is energetic. I mean, okay, anyway, point but God, and then
not really. I'm very familiar with some of the utilization of the feminine energy in a distorted manner.
Which basically means then that the divine or that the masculine can't claim its own divine feminine. Does that make sense?
Yes, it's almost like they were mismatched.
Exactly.
So I remember I said this actually a long time. It's so funny that these things come back around. Something happened where they were mismatched. And I was concerned because we had discussed that the divine twin flame energetic, there is a template for this. Yes. There is a match. There is a way. I believe it was actually even kind of put in place as somewhat of a gift. It was supposed to be part of the ascension, part of the growth process. It was actually supposed to be part of the experience on the positive experience of evolution and ascension. Is being paired with almost as a gift, in a way. And so I believe there is a template for it. There is a blueprint for it, right? Mm-hmm. There is an energetic
there is definitely
plan already there waiting, and I believe that got jacked up. I think somebody tried to do some monkey business with that.
You mean with the twin flame part you're mentioning?
Twin flame energetic. They
totally agree. Absolutely. Because again, this was to keep, once again, it's to suppress. Okay. Mm-hmm. And not keep, and keep, what I am getting is that there was, they just said blocks in place to keep the twin flames from reconnecting in the way that they were meant to, but they're connecting now. Because of where
I think that the pairing system, they can correct me if I'm wrong, but the feeling that I got through my experience is that they were paired, and they were paired in almost like a capture and forced to pair to something that they were not intended to pair to. And then that created a massive issue, or a massive distortion, right? Where there was a lot of pain caused to both the masculine and the feminine being paired with the toxic counter.
Yes.
Okay. So the divine was paired to the toxic counterpart.
Yes.
And then the divine was like Adam and Lilith and Eve and whatever Adam's lower is, right?
And what they're showing is it actually played, they're showing it actually plays out in the human form. In other words, a twin aligns with, we'll just get real literal. One of the twins marries a super toxic person, right? Instead of the twin they're supposed to be with, right? And then it takes forever for them to find their way out and find their twin. Does that make sense?
And it causes like this very septic, because it's there is not a longing, but it's you. It's really you. Right, it's being separated from yourself, right? So it's a very hurt or painful separation. But what is happening, even though that process and all of that, trying to do all of this mismatching crap, I believe what will happen, and is happening, is the divine counter in that match is breaking down the toxic. Even if it's not his toxic, it is the toxic of the other. It's just a little bit more painful this way.
Yes.
A lot more painful this way, actually.
Yes. And what they're saying is nothing will stop it. It's basically delayed it. Does that make sense? It's like made it tougher. So
delayed it. It's kind of tarnished the dream.
Exactly.
It's tarnished the intention. It's tarnished the potential creation that would have come from the divine masculine, the reunion going as it was intended to go.
Yes.
but it's still going to happen.
Yes, that's exactly it. But we have to get through the sludge of that stuff that happened to us. That's exactly right. And you know what's really interesting, going back to this idea of the divine masculine, feminine, the masculine being held down. We talk so much in the world, in the 3D, about feminine suppression and oppression and all that. And what the really interesting part is, that's what it looks like on the surface, but what it really is, what it truly is, they're really showing to me is what's not well understood is actually, and I just said this earlier, they're actually using the divine feminine. Okay. As you said, they're using the divine feminine powers and energies. They just don't want the individual average female to be able to have that and use that. So they suppressed it. But the bigger part of this is, the real key is, they don't want the divine or the masculine to reclaim their feminine, because then that gives them the power to be in the fullness of who they really are. So in reality, what's really kind of this whole upside down thing is being suppressed is the masculine. The masculines are really the ones that are being fully, I mean, we're both being affected, but fully being suppressed down, because they know that that's where the power will be, because the divine feminine always had that power, always had that. They've taken it, used it in they just said nefarious ways, but the masculine has always been held down by the patriarchal ways. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does, actually, because it feels, especially to me in a female form, here, and it feels a lot like it's all been done to the feminine. But yes, I do notice these things even in some of the scenarios that play out with me, and they'll kind of walk through something, and I'll look at this, so-called toxic male in the situation, and I'm like, oh my God, you got fooled just as much as I did.
Exactly.
And I'm looking at him like, okay, you see this, right? So it's almost like in the beginning, I'm like, who are you? And get the hell away from me. You're horrible. And it's become a little bit more like, okay, I don't, it's not as there's not as much animosity. I'm almost like, look what they did. You got tricked.
Right.
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 And so it's almost like we've had these like many conversations. So I've had the experience of almost like being the divine feminine introduced to a very toxic male.
Yes.
And being like, holy crap, what is going on here? But it's evolved into seeing what's happened to him in this whole process too. And I'm like, hey, walk yourself out of here. You don't,
exactly.
You got tricked. This was, you may have done this thing. And, I think that they were kind of tricked into doing things that make them hate themselves.
Totally.
So like tricking them into being enraged or embattled. They used this word before, embattled against something and going crazy and, fighting, and then realizing they just killed like the person they love the most.
Right. And think of being,
and they hate themselves for it. Right.
Yes.
So
and think of being a masculine or a male in the days, well, it's shifting, but in general, they've been taught that they shouldn't have emotions or
yes.
That they shouldn't cry. They shouldn't, none of that. That's one of the biggest things that happened, is what I'm getting.
That would be tantamount to killing your divine feminine.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah, it's very interesting how it's kind of playing out in different ways, maybe to help me understand it, but it's energetic, but it also has a storyline, and it's also non-physical, and it's also physical for me. So it's like different layers. I'm watching kind of how this ebbing and flowing, and in putting it into an explainable context by coming up. It's really like a storyline, and sometimes I'm like, this is so ridiculous and toxic. I'm so over this.
Oh, I know.
I'm thinking, what is that might be the whole point. Like, I'm done with this.
Okay. I'm going to say something. So this is important that you just said that, because you remember who you are. You're sick and tired of this. You're done with this. Well, guess what? You know where the collective is right now. The collective, particularly in this week and moving into after the equinox, is in the we're sick and tired of this, things have to change mode. Yes. Now, we're going to see that and how that's going to rise up and start making shift and change. But it's after the equinox, these energies are supercharged with respect to what you just said. And the collective is like, no, we're finally really tired of this. And whatever that means of how I change myself to then have the outer world change, or, what does that actually mean, literally? But that's exactly what's happening now. We're coming to that stage where they just said, it's like a tinderbox, right? But the shift and change, it's almost like okay, they're talking about they're showing weights, they're showing a balance and weight, like the shift. Okay, this is energetics too. It's almost as though I've had enough, we've had enough, finally. Okay, they just said weights and balances, scales, and they're showing the scale finally had enough so that it outbalances the desire to just remain status quo or to turn the other way. Whoa.
Yeah.
And this is energetics too. So we sit here and often think, oh God, every single one of us has to change, and yes, we do, to be able to. But it's a weightedness, like it's kind of like the 100th monkey thing, right?
Yes, it is. It's
oh my God,
accumulation of.
It is.
Once there's a tipping point, and I get visuals sometimes about this. Like I had a visual of, it was a being, it was a male energy, it was a being, and it was like being magnetically pulled through space almost to it would look like maybe a ship of some kind.
Yeah.
And they were moving so fast that they started to flame. Oh. And then kind of a black cover came out and over them to protect them from the flame. While they were flying, they were moving so fast coming towards this ship that they had this protective coating kind of come over them while they were going. And then they hit the ship, and then I see this guy get out. He's in a black jumpsuit. He's got some silver on it. He's got blonde hair. He looks a little bit beat up, so soot on his face or something, And he gets out. He's wandering, getting out, kind of stumbling in, And I'm like, what is happening? It's but I felt like I was the ship.
Yeah, that's what I'm getting. Exactly. Yes. Mm-hmm. And they said, oh God, I just lost what they said. Oh shoot. Yes, that's exactly right. But that's that whole thing we're talking about, that masculine coming back into the feminine. Does it make sense?
Yeah.
And of course he's dizzy.
It was like they're making a point to I'm coming so fast, I'm on fire. Right?
Yes, totally. Totally.
I'm trying to get back that bad.
Yes, that's exactly right. Okay. And I'm going to tell you right now, that's why we're seeing what we're seeing in the collective, in the crazed times, because it's the inner fighting of the two. Yeah. Does that make sense? And the feminine is not fighting. It's the patriarchy and the divine masculine fighting within each to be able to then find their feminine again, be able to reach out and grab that hand. Does that make sense?
Yes. Yeah, and it's funny, it's cross body, because I definitely feel a very distinct difference between both sides of my body.
Yep, that would make sense.
My left and right are very different from each other. So.
Oh, wow. You know what? You have always, and this keeps coming to me, and I'm supposed to tell you this, from day one since we've talked, doesn't matter what you've gone through, your light body that they show, that blueprint, that whole you, energetic you, has never changed from this extraordinary, stable, extremely crystalline bright light. This beautiful yellow-white light that I always see. It's never changed. It takes impact. It takes all this stuff that's happened to you, and it looks at first like maybe it disappears, but then it's back. I mean, it's like you cannot be changed, is what they keep showing. That energy of you, and ultimately of all, cannot be destroyed. It's just a matter of time before this all gets reclaimed in each individual and then across the collective.
And I feel like this is true. I feel like this is, I guess just on the human side of it, it's hard to feel disconnected from it. And sometimes the things that I'm going through, I'm like, if that level of indestructibility, or I see it more, not as indestructible. I see it as almost like pure integrity or the pureness of integrity. Like it just, there's nothing that can do anything to it. Right. But I want, if that is, why are we struggling so hard? And it's like, this is like intrinsic to all of us. What is, why are we fighting with this other? It's sometimes it's hard for me because it just primarily because of the pain, and then also because of not being able to feel myself, not being able to feel me within my, when I'm, on my human level. That's very difficult for me. So, but I know that is true. I know that there is nothing that can, like if I'm ever worried, it's more about why my human isn't connected to myself more, my own energy. It's never that, oh my God, my energy's been destroyed. I know that that's not possible. Right. I feel that very strongly. So, but yeah, it's been an interesting couple of weeks. It's very different things. There's some new, old stuff coming. There's some new stuff, and then there's some revisiting. It's like a whole mishmash of everything happening right now.
Oh, totally. And it's very much being shown in the collective.
In fact, I was shown one time the guardians, because I was discussing, in the beginning, I was discussing, there's some stuff going on around my house. I'm not really sure about my safety. And they're like, they showed me these two giant purple angelic beings that are always with me, because apparently like guarding my home and my being, and it was purple. I've always loved the color purple anyway, but that was kind of something that keeps showing up to me. It's a purple, like a opalescence and a deep purple mixture.
That's what I'm getting to.
Yeah.
They're talking about, yeah, it's like they're showing like a pathway. It's like they keep saying the word royal. That would tend to make sense though. Oh, they just said reclaiming your crown. Huh, that's interesting. Okay, and now they're showing the robe of a actually king would normally wear, but it's on you. Like from the days of old.
Do you know how funny that is?
Is it?
Does that not resonate?
Yeah,
totally.
It does. Totally does. That's so fascinating. Oh my God, I see this too. This is crazy.
That's hilarious. My gosh. The patriarchal male and the divine feminine.
Isn't that fascinating?
And he's sitting there he's sitting there thinking he's the king.
And it's actually the woman. Oh my God, that is so true. That is, oh my gosh. This is honestly, this has been an absolutely fascinating discussion. Well, what did you think? Thank you so much for joining me today. And, maybe we'll be able to do some more of these in the future. But she was very willing to allow that to happen. There's also something powerful about hearing the frequency of her voice as well. And for us in the space that we were in too. So that travels through the video as well. So you gain that benefit too. So again, thank you so much for joining me. And remember, purplerainhealing.com. That's where I list all my services. You too can have channeled sessions with me where I will bring through information to assist you on your journey. And I also do distance energy healing and spiritual awakening mentoring. And then don't forget, Celeste and I do a full-on soul journey, 50 minutes of recorded information where we bring through information on your larger soul journey that will assist you in understanding your current incarnation. Again, thank you so much for joining me, and I'll see you in the next video.